All right. Here we go, man. Here we go. I'm gonna let Instagram do its job and notify people that I'm live right now. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Man, I'm proud of myself, yo. Like, I'm very, very, very proud of myself. The fact that you know, it's 2 nights in a row, man. 2 nights in a row that I've been able to go live on Instagram. Hopefully tonight we don't have the same technical difficulties as we had last night, but hey, man, it is what it is. What's going down? This is CJ Hunter, aka CJD Exec, and welcome, God damn it, welcome to the Wellness Corner podcast. This episode tonight is another special episode because I'm now would have had officially my second guest on the podcast, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. So I'm before I bring my guest in, we got to do some church announcements, y'all. All right, we got to go get through these segments and get through these old church announcements. Now, if you were not here last night, I needed to inform you guys or remind you guys that myself, my sister, my fellow Loopy sister, Janae Towns, aka at Loopies Unite, and my brother, business partner, co-host of the Bill podcast, and DJ Cobb Alexander, aka Ox.Court.Whisperer, have began a podcast called Lupus After Dark. And it was inspired by the fact that, it's Lupus Awareness Month, y'all. And it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. So, in honor of that, we started this podcast. But here's the thing. When you got lupus, this disease has a mind of its own. It flares because of different reasons and all of that stuff. I've been in and out the hospital. She been sick and going through things herself. It's just been everything just been kind of going haywire. Alex is getting booked everywhere all the time, every time, and it's a thing. It's a real thing. So everything is calming down. The dust is settling, and we plan on recording podcast episodes in the 1st of June, and we're gonna get them pumping out to y'all. If you are not doing so already, you need to be following me on all of my social media platforms. All right, you need to be following me on Facebook. That's Chris Hunter on Facebook. It's CJ.TheExec on TikTok. All right. And you need to be following the Wellness Corner, because this is the Wellness Corner podcast. You need to be following the Wellness Corner on YouTube. All right. And because this community that we've created is for people all over the world who are focused on wellness. Whether you are a mental health professional, a social worker, a nurse, a psychologist, a doctor, a patient with chronic illness, a person who cares for a person with chronic illness. This community has been formed to serve as a resource for people to really build and be there for one another, man, because hey, wellness as a whole is something that is incredibly important, and we gotta have it. We gotta have it, y'all. So next segment. This week in the world, y'all. What are we gonna do about this dang on healthcare system, fam? Like for real. I was actually on social media earlier this week, just kind of scrolling, seeing what's going on what people are talking about. And I came across several posts from people that were talking about how there are people that are working in the medical profession. There are people that were working in the hospitals and all of this stuff at the height of when COVID, this pandemic was really just going crazy. And lo and behold, a lot of these people either can't necessarily afford health insurance or don't have health insurance. And I'm just kind of like, yo, like, what the hell? Like, it doesn't make sense for anyone to not, be medically insured and be able to see the doctor and stuff like that. But the people that are on the front lines, like, that makes no sense to me, like, whatsoever. And I'm just like, yo, like, what the hell is gonna be done about this, bro? Like, what's really good? What Joe Byron? Hey, player, like, what's happening? What's going on with that? So, that's the thing, man. Last thing, woke up this morning, getting ready to get myself together to go to dialysis, because I go to dialysis. I'm TTS, that's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I woke up to old Nick Saban having beef with Coach Prime Time Deion Sanders at Jackson State. Homeboy out here smooth, dry snitching, talking about, Texas A&M and Jackson State University paid players $1 million a piece to come and play for them. And it's just like, oh, Saint Nick, now come on, my boy. Like, now you roll tide, all right? You roll tide. First of all, I hate your school. Just flat out. Like, I hate Alabama. And anybody want to fight about it, we can box about it. But it's Alabama. Like, I know damn well y'all be paying players. And you want to use something like the NIL that has been rightfully formed for these collegiate athletes to be paid and compensated, paid for the services that they render on behalf of y'all university. And now, when you see the top recruit in the country, that being Travis Hunter, who you had dead to right coming to your school, say, nah, I'm going to go play with my people and go do my thing at a HBCU. Now it's an issue. And yeah, y'all could have got him a deal. But here's the thing that you will never be able to do, Nick Saban. You will never be able to relate to a black child the way somebody like a primetime Deion Sanders can. Come on, man. Come on now. This is like, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get up off of it because this is not the Bill podcast. So I can't be talking reckless like this on this one. I just had to broach the subject. Let me tell you this. Ain't it funny how this is so, even in like this situation, this athletic situation, it is indicative of white men and this whole, like, as long as everything is going on in my favor, I'm good. But as soon as black people specifically get an even level playing field, I want to throw a temper tantrum. Just historically speaking, like, God dog it. But anyway, all right, y'all. So look, man, I'm really excited, yo, because the sister that I'm bringing in tonight, man, comes highly recommended from my cousin. Y'all already know who the name I'm about to say. I say this name on this podcast at least once or twice. Every podcast. The great Dr. Gerald Penny. I reached out to him because I needed experts. As y'all know, I'm not gonna ever sit here and claim to know everything. I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination about anything, not even about lupus. right? Like I literally learn something about lupus every single day, period. So that's like, I'm not gonna be perfect, never will be. And I was like, look, bro, like I need a professional to come in and speak about, you know, a myriad of topics, but specifically, you know, their experience either caring for or supporting people with lupus, autoimmune disease, you know, mental health issues, etc. And I mean, it seemed like he like pulled out a bat phone or something, because like 5 minutes later he was like, yeah, I got somebody. I'm just like, what? I thought it would take at least 48 hours. I did, but he was just like, no, I'm you know, this sister here, you know, she's she's it. Like I'm like, all right, cool, you know, because you know I always make fun of a G, because you know he got all the letters behind his name, and I asked him, I say, you know, she got all the letters behind her name, and he was like, yeah, like, you know, she got the letters behind her name. I'm like, all right, cool, bet, you know, so and I got even more excited as I began to correspond with her, and then she sent me her bio, and I was just like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now she's my people, and what I mean by my people is she's a podcaster. She's a producer of the Brown Liquor Report. Now, when I seen this, she said, you know, I'm Jazz Hands of the Brown Liquor Report. I say, hold on. Now I may be dealing with my people. Now I ain't gonna, you know, say what my people are, but if you know, then you know. But I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, she's a co-host, she's a producer. She's been doing, you know, this podcast with her co-host for the past, shoot, it said 2017. So shoot, we had 5 years. So I was just like, oh man, like there's so much that I can learn from this sister just in podcasting alone. But she's recently an RN, you know, about to start her, you know, her residency, and you know, she's worked in social work for over a decade. She is the self-proclaimed. Now I don't think that she's self-proclaimed. If this is in her bio, somebody gave her this title. She is titled as the Turn Up Coordinator, Passionate Twerk Advocate. You see, my people, right? Like these are my people, and so without further ado, she's in here already. Jazz, could you please make a request to join the live? And I'm gonna bring you in right now when you send that request. All right, all right, all right.
And then you
Yes, hey, how you doing?
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Bad, bad.
I spent so much time laughing at my own bio.
Oh man, I love when you sent me that bio. I fell out. I say, oh man. See, you know my cousin, so you know you already know how he is, and I'm him plus a little bit more. so yeah. So hey, any turn up activity, I don't you my people. Uh,
I can't help it. I can't help it. I love to see people have a good time. So I'm pro that.
great. That's great. I completely understand it. Well, first of all, I'm so very appreciative of you taking out this, you know, hour of your time to do this podcast with me. Um, you know, I'm newly solo at doing podcasts with brother, one of my best, the Bill podcast. But to do this, I was afraid because it's just me. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't have the banter of the back and forth. I'm goofy, but my goofiness and my funniness bounces off of his being nonchalant. So it's like,
Right.
but to do this, I was just like, which is why usually the podcast. So, because that's all I got for y'all at 30. Can't have a podcast with guests, so here we are.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
First of all, can you tell us about the Brown Liquor Report? And I love y'all's logo. Y'all's logo is 5. It's 5, right?
Thank you.
About it. Tell me all about it.
Oh, so the Brown Liquor Report is myself, Jazz Hands, my friend, we call him the Count, and our leader, founder, and also our other co-host, DJ Blackshaw. All three of us went to high school together. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. Like we know each other pre-glow up. We know each other from like sitting in the cafeteria and being in class and goofing off. And we just found that we had really good banter on like the interwebs. Like, we would be in chats and discussions and debates and going back and forth and vibing off of each other. And so we decided to start a podcast, and it's been fantastic. So, our tagline is that we hold your hand through your timeline, all the mess, all the crap of your timeline, and try to make sense of it all. And we do so with the authority that Brown Liquor gives us, because we always have a drink and something to eat every time we meet up.
I love that. That's dope.
It's been great. It's been great.
200,000 plus listens.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, I dream about it, right? But it's so like, how does that feel? How does that make y'all feel? Like,
it makes us feel really great. It's so interesting because we've been doing this for so long. It's really become a part of like our social scene. Like, we are so dedicated to our recording time because we also like to spend time with each other, and we're really good friends. So like, whenever we have to miss the recording day, it's like, oh my gosh, I miss y'all. Y'all stink. Like, I gotta be an adult. I gotta go take care of the kids. I gotta go to work. Oh my goodness. So, and I think that we just found ourselves being consistent, talking about things that were really relevant, that really resonated with our listeners and with the community, that we feel like we speak to and represent. We often say, we're the podcast for folks who had mixtape dreams back in the day, and are growing up, and and now, we are voters and taxpayers, and we're on your PTA, but we're still lit. And then, just working together with other podcasters that we know to make sure that we were doing a good job, like cross-promoting and doing what you're doing right now. And then before you know it, all of a sudden it was like, how we get all these listens? Yeah, dang, folks really be listening to us. So it's been good. It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been great.
That's fantastic. And see, we have a story, Alex and I, we've known each other from like diapers, like,
yeah,
literally,
awesome.
Same daycare center. His mama was changing my diapers. My mama was changing his diapers. Like, so we basically family at this point. Like, this, so, and we kind of as just two millennials just trying to work through some stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I could be better here, and I think that's what has helped us. But, y'all are OG, and we like we want to, like y'all, I mean, even this press, like I'm looking at this press junket, the professionalism of it, the detail, the precision of your description, and just the whole deal. Like we hope to aspire that, and man, 200K plus listeners. Oh my God, like man, that's fantastic. So,
Thank you.
hey, if you are in here, if you are right now, you are here because of me, go follow them. And I need you to, be listening so that we can get them elevated.
So much. Thank you.
So why a degree in public health and social work?
Oh my goodness. It's a long story to my healthcare career journey has been a long winding road. So initially, I wanted to be a business student. I thought I was going to be like a mogul or something like that. That's what I thought. And then I realized I might be a little too risk adverse for that. Like, I don't want nobody to play with my money. Please don't do that. So then I was going to go to law school, right? I found myself in, undergrad, and I was like, an urban studies major, and I had this fantastic internship with Legal Aid Society, criminal defense. And I had a family member that was very near and dear to my heart that was in prison wrongfully. And, I used to always be like, I'm going to work on his case and help get him free. And so I was going to be a lawyer. But then after working at Queens County Courthouse for a few months, I came across so many different clients that my attorney was representing that I often felt like someone should have got to them sooner. Someone should have offered them assistance sooner. It's, the legal system is no friend to those that are under-resourced. And
Right.
so I kept thinking like, I need, there needs to be an intervention that's earlier. So I found myself working in a way that I just was staying really conscious of just like social needs, social interventions. So I decided to not go to law school. I called my parents, told them I wasn't going to go. I could have sworn I heard my mama drop the phone and probably start mourning and wailing and rendering her God. Like, oh gosh. And I said, no, I'm being a social worker, mama. I'm going to save the world. So I know, right? Like my mom was like, what are you doing? So I decided that's what I was going to do. And it really solidified that I wanted to do medical social work because I have an autoimmune disorder. And the first time that I was hospitalized with my autoimmune disorder, I have Crohn's disease. I'll never forget the social worker coming to visit me. And I remember thinking like, you're a social worker? And she was like, yeah, I'm just here to talk with you, see how you're adjusting. What do you need? What kind of resources? And I was just like, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So I decided to become a social worker. And then, you get to a point where you find yourself working in a way one-on-one and working, direct practice. And you start to notice these themes, these issues are not, one-offs. They're not episodic. These are larger systemic issues. And so I needed to figure out how to better address that. So I equipped myself with a public health degree to kind of give myself that language, give myself those research skills, to just be able to talk about it with a little more precision and authority and have a little more impact. And so it's been fantastic. And of course, I couldn't stop there. So I went and got a nursing degree because why not?
Wow.
Why not? I think all people with autoimmune disorders are low-key type A. So I just think we just keep on. Keep on.
And I'm not pretty sure you've heard this before. Oh, sit down. You need to rest. You need to. No.
Can't.
No, that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing here.
Not what we're doing. No, I think sometimes, people who deal with like chronic illness, like time is of the essence. I got stuff to do. I got stuff to do, things to impact. If I don't do it, who else going to do it? So it's been a wonderful journey. And here I am now talking with you, with the exec. I'm so pleased.
So, how was, first of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
completing the, how was it?
Thank you. It was tough. It was tough for so many reasons because, of course, I'm not a traditional freshman, like I wasn't in this program with teenagers. I'm, an adult. I'm not gonna say my age because y'all don't need to be nosy. It's my business. Mind to your business. But I was saying, I was just like in this program, I was working full time. And it was a lot because in nursing school, you think about nursing school or even medical school. When you're in medical school, you tend to do your coursework separate from your didactic learning, your hands-on learning. But when you're in nursing school, you're doing your coursework along with your clinicals. So it's just like every week, it's like lecture, lab, clinical at the hospital, lecture, exam, lab, clinical at the hospital. So it's like this very
That's making my head hurt.
the pace.
Yeah.
I know it's a grind. You add on to that having an autoimmune disorder and knowing how stress can be a trigger. And, some days, listen.
You so real talk. Man, that is so inspiring. God,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a tough journey, but we got through it and here we are. And, soon I'll be starting at a really large hospital here in the DC area, working in their ICU unit. So I'm super excited about that. Super excited.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I wanna jump on into the topic of discussion tonight, and that is from an expert perspective like yourself. And I had no idea that you actually have an autoimmune disease yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to me about, first of all, the nature of autoimmune diseases, and then knowledge that you may have about lupus?
Sure. And we're both experts here. We're both experts here because I really believe that having lived an experience, is so valuable. And I always tell that to like my doctors and providers. I'm like, I've been a doctor for 15 years. I'm like, well, I've been myself for this many years with this illness. So let me tell you a little something. But essentially, autoimmune disorders is just like an immune system response against yourself. It's like your immune system is not recognizing its own body as not being foreign. It sees it as foreign, right? So it's having like this error. So it attacks itself and causes this system-wide like immune response, which usually is inflammation. Right. And that manifests itself in like pain, swelling, loss of function depending on where it's attacking, recurring fevers, you having this large inflammation response. So, depending on the type of autoimmune disorder you have, it may focus on different organs. So if you have like a very common autoimmune disorder people don't always recognize, it's like diabetes type 1. So your immune system is attacking your pancreas. For Crohn's disease, your immune system is attacking your GI system. Rheumatoid, your joints. But with lupus, it tends to be more system-wide. It can attack any major organ. A lot of times you see people with issues with their lungs, with their kidneys, with their heart. So it's much more like systemic with lupus, and there's so many different kinds. But what I often think is really interesting about autoimmune disorders is that they tend to kind of mimic one another, like because it's an inflammatory response, so it looks so similar, and
Right.
they can be really, really difficult to diagnose. It can take a while because it presents with these symptoms that can kind of be nondescript. you know, and so it'll take you repeatedly going to your doctor to say something is wrong. You know, I woke up, my joints is swelling, you know, I got this rash. I got this rash, and they're just like, you know, they have to know the right labs to draw, the right types of diagnostic tests to take, and it takes them gathering all that information to finally figure out, like, oh, this is this particular disease. They have to rule out so much before they can say it's this, and this is how we're going to treat it. And so that's the case with lupus, Crohn's, and any other autoimmune disorder.
So,
Yeah.
and man, you're so right about that, because like I tell people I was formally in 2010, but I was around from 2008 with all of the symptoms. I was going back and forth to the emergency room, and every time it was viral infection. It may be a virus. Man, first of all, do you see my face? Like, do you see my face? Like,
yeah.
Look, man, I have baby soft skin and boyish good looks. This is not normal. Not normal. So, you know, and at one point, like, I remember my right elbow got stuck in this position.
Wow.
The swelling, the rash, everything. It was stuck. And this was going on for 2 years.
Yep.
They didn't figure out what it was until I came into the emergency room with pericarditis.
Wow. Wow. Inflammation of your pericardium, like around your heart. Wow.
20, and they were so scared, right? Because here I am at the time, I'm 23. And I knew something was wrong because the way that the nurses looked at each other, and they were like, oh, no. Like, it scared me. I'm not hold you. So, would you mind sharing your story of how you came to know?
To be diagnosed?
Yes.
So it was similar. I had symptoms all while I was in college. And you know, for me with Crohn's, it was just like stomach aches, right? It was just like, oh my God, like I couldn't eat anything. It was this perpetual fullness. It was this stabbing pain, sometimes fever, a lot of vomiting.
Wow.
A lot of vomiting. So I kept thinking like, oh, I ate something bad. You know, I went to school in New York City. I was like, oh, I ate something bad, or I got food poisoning, or I'm just really stressed with being a student in this course load and all these other factors I had going on in my life at the time. And I remember coming home and going to a doctor, and they just said it was like, oh, this might be some mild irritable bowel, just some mild. Yeah. They treated me with painkillers for 2 years. For 2 years, it was just painkillers. Painkillers and like antacids. I don't even know what she was doing. I don't even know what she was doing. For 2 years, and I was so like, I don't want to take the pain pills because I need to be able to say this hurts. Something is bothering me and I can't figure out what it is. So I persisted. Also with Crohn's, a lot of times people don't know that the presentation also includes a rash. So I had this head to toe rash that looked like a Christmas tree stamp.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what is this? I was like, oh my gosh. I can remember being in my dorm room and in the bathroom. I was like, ah! My roommate was like, ah! I was like, there's a rash. He was like, somebody. I was like, what is it? I was like, is there something in my bed? You know, I'm going through trying to clean my whole room. Da, 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 da. So it was like all of this back and forth with doctors. And then it took me finding a doctor at the university medical center at the school I was at. I went to NYU. So I went to NYU Medical Center. I found a GI doctor, and he did some tests. Um, he did some tests, and then he was like, I think it might be this. I think it might be this. I think it might be Crohn's. I think that might be what we're working with, but I need to do some more diagnostic tests, right? So, those upper GI scopes and lower GI scopes and all those kinds of things. And I'll never forget, I went back to the doctor at home, and she prescribed me like a high dose of steroids and just told me to take calcium because she didn't want me to have a hip replacement at 21. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like, she wasn't really dialoguing with me. And I remember getting sick again, going back to the doctor at NYU Medical, and him putting me immediately in the hospital for 2 weeks. Like, he was like, that's it. We know what this is. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'll never forget it. So it was just very like, like I just graduated from college. I was ready to, start life and pursue this journey of being an attorney. And all of a sudden it was just like 2 weeks in the hospital with complete bowel rest. They love to do that to us cronies. It's just like, you don't eat anything, you don't drink anything, you don't sip nothing. Just sit there and get your whole thing to just calm down. So you just sit there until they.
No, you good. Yeah.
So that was what it was. It was just like this really long thing. And then it started with, all the medications that you get prescribed. It was a lot, and that worked for a while until eventually I had corrective surgery. So that happens a lot with patients with Crohn's. They tend to have like huge resections and issues like that. So that's where I went, and I've been okay since then.
Right.
That was, I think, a lot of times when you have autoimmune disorders, they tend to impact women more. More women have autoimmune disorders, whether it be lupus or Crohn's or whatever,
Right.
than men. They can't always figure out why. They think it has something to do with hormone responses.
Okay.
So you'll also find people, whether it's lupus or Crohn's, they'll tell you like their symptoms tend to get a little riled up, like around their menstrual cycle, like the peak and valleys of their hormones, but also pregnancy, So pregnancy will cause like multiple sclerosis, lupus. There'll be all these conversations around whether or not you should be coming off of your medication because it causes things to like really go haywire. Because if your body's already attacking itself, just think how it responds when you get pregnant. It's like, wait a second. So that caused me to have another huge flare. And that's when I had my corrective surgery after I had my daughter. So, but we've been okay since then. Now we're.
Man, so, okay.
Oh, I made his head hurt. Help him, Jesus. What I done did. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. Is there ever a question with women, specifically women of color? Because I knew that women of color really suffer autoimmune diseases, like for real. But ever a conversation or surrounding like whether or not they would want y'all to consider having children, or like, because
yeah, that is always a conversation. I think for me and for the other women that I know that have autoimmune disorders, that's always a conversation, because the medications that we are often prescribed, because they tend to be rather similar across the autoimmune disorders, your corticosteroids, your biologics, your azathioprine, your immune suppressants,
right.
Those things tend to be teratogenic, meaning they cross the barrier, they cross the placenta barrier, so they can cause harm to the fetus, to your unborn baby. So there's always a conversation when you're considering getting pregnant about just how well you are in general, right? How your particular disease or condition tends to manifest or show up. And then it's a conversation about what medications are you on? Because a lot of times you'll have to change those. So like for me, I had to come off of medication, especially for medications that are slow acting, because there's not always a lot of research around, whether or not what there's not always enough research around the findings of certain medications in pregnancy. So you come off I had to come off the medication for 6 months and then change medications and then start to attempt to get pregnant. That's the way my providers walked me through it. They were very deliberate about, like, let's not run this risk. Let's stop this medication, give you some time for it to work its way out your system, make sure we start this new regimen, and then let's go ahead and get pregnant and make sure things are as settled and calm as possible. So, and that's been the conversation that I've had with patients, with clients, oh, I want to have a baby. Okay. Let's consider how this will look and what our options are to make sure that baby and mom are as healthy as possible. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, because I've seen so many women that have autoimmune disease that have children and that were prior to having children. And I was just like, okay, well, is that even an option? Because for me, when we started really getting into chemotherapy and specifically Cytoxan, that was when doctors were like, oh, you are now on round 2 rounds of this. You run the risk of not being able to have children. So, Mr. Hunter,
it's a real conversation.
And to be having that conversation at 27,
yeah,
I was just like, but I saw, and I literally remember, and my rheumatologist, but I see women have children.
Yeah.
He said,
yeah.
But in African American men, he said, this thing can be fatal. And that was when I'll never forget, like, I called in tears because I was like, this is the first time that I had to face the thought of my own mortality. Which leads me wanting to ask you about, as a social worker, you have been through the gambit of patients, all different background, temperaments, emotional. Like, what have you observed in terms of mental and emotional impact of patients who are helping that have autoimmune disease?
Oh man, this is what I'll say. Oh, that's such a good question. It's exhausting to be a patient or a person, an individual, a human with a diagnosis that is chronic, specifically, autoimmune disorders. It's exhausting. You can tell when someone there's so much of our lives that ends up being controlled or someone's attempting to control, whether it's medication, whether it's dialysis schedules, whether it's doctor's appointments, whether it's eat this, don't eat that, drink this, don't drink that, don't do too much stress, don't work too much, don't do this, don't do that, sit down, try to get more rest. And what you tend to see, I think, with people who have chronic illnesses is that when they're trying to assert themselves and assert their independence, a lot of times it manifests in a way that looks like maybe they are not following their care plan. Sometimes doctors or healthcare professionals will say, this patient is being non-compliant. I hate that term. They're being non-compliant. And it's just like, no, I feel like there's so much controlled about me when I'm upset, when I'm frustrated, when I don't necessarily know how to articulate that I don't want to do this, or I don't like the way it makes me feel, or I like another option, or I'm disappointed that this option isn't available. It tends to show up in like, I'm just not going to go to treatment today because so what? You know what I mean? Myself included, like I need to reschedule that appointment. I'm just not gonna be able to make it. So I tend to see that, and I tend to see, I think, what is a lot of depression. I definitely think there's when it comes to mental health, and then having symptoms of mental illness, I think there's definitely this organic side where sometimes certain people are just predisposed to develop certain conditions, right? And then I also think there's like situational depression that kind of rises to the top because we're essentially grieving.
Yeah.
I didn't think you didn't think you was going to be 27 having a discussion about, your treatment versus having children.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to be 21 with somebody telling me, at that time I was taking like that day, like it was like 16 pills a day and, and trying to, what I'm saying, trying to manage. I'm in school. People don't need to know my business. I'm trying to work. I can't be out here throwing up in the trash can all the time. The pills making me sick, the food making me sick, like
Everything.
I'm losing weight. So you tend to see, I think, a lot of depression and strain. I think it also strains your social networks.
Oh yeah.
And this is why I think that one, folks tend to think about health as being just in these very polar places. Either you're well
or you're not,
or you're sick. You know what I'm saying? They don't often see it as existing on this kind of continuum. So, when I say like, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling well today, and someone's like, my stomach's bothering me or my joints are bothering me, they be like, why? Like, again, we got to go over this again. like after all the hospitalization,
or what about this? Jack even looks sick.
Say it again. Say it again. It's exhausting to have to always explain to people what the issue is. Yeah. And on the other hand, I think it can sometimes get exhausting for your social circles because, like, especially when I was younger, oh goodness, when I was younger, and it would be like, oh, I want to go out. Oh, I want to do this. And I would just be like, I'm just too tired. Yeah. Folks get tired of you being tired. Or folks get tired of you being in pain. Yeah. Or folks get, that's how I used to feel. I know some of my clients would say that was really upsetting because we try to keep up because we don't want nobody to know we're sick. We don't want nobody to know we're struggling, and we get used to dealing with a certain amount of discomfort.
Right.
So we can continue to fit in. And it's just like, that always ends up to bite us in the butt because then Monday comes and we're too tired. Now we got to miss treatment. We're throwing up. We're symptomatic again. We didn't get enough rest. We had too much caffeine. Man. And then we back at square one. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I'll tell you. When I was in the hospital last week, I put a video out and I told, said, the biggest problem us have is that we make hard stuff look. So because we make hard stuff look easy, they think that what we're going through
is easy. Lies, fairy tales, and fallacies. That is not the truth.
And I tell you, you are speaking a whole entire soul because from the depression that I experience through
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of isolation and loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the pain of being told by your care team, not just the doc, not just the rheumatologist, not just the cardiologist or the neuro, everyone has come together. And this is gonna be real misogynistic for me to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. As a man, to be told by your care team, not only can you not work, not only can we don't want you to work, but
Mm-hmm.
physically, if you
Mm-hmm.
so, you are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
What that does to a man's spirit on the
Mm-hmm.
what it does to your earning and your ability to survive independently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Mm-hmm.
I was 25,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
advise you to not live.
Wow.
But it's just like, what are you what like this that is a part of adulthood.
Yeah.
To have your own,
Yeah.
to be able to keep up with you. Y'all want to go on vacation too, but I make provisions. Oh, and if you, I know you can relate to this. It has gotten to a point where if y'all want to go and y'all are inviting me, I'm gonna need 3 days to prepare just to go out. 3 days at least.
Yeah.
I got to get my body right. I got to time my medications because see, if when I take these three medications gonna make me want to go to sleep. Season we got to go out. I'm not going. Right, like all of the nuances and the gray area, and what people don't realize that I don't care how much you tell me you love me,
Mm-hmm.
going to be a burden to you at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, everybody gets tired of you being sick. They get tired of you. They get tired of him and looking forward to seeing you and you not end up coming. So then, what do
Yeah.
they stop it?
Yeah.
They stop including, and now here you are. They're sending you videos, or you're seeing it, and you.
Like, dang, I'm a good time too. All I asked was for 3 days.
I just, I,
Y'all know what it is.
I just needed 3 days. You know. And
You
so,
know, sometimes I tell people, I've told clients before, when it comes to having support from your friends and family, you tend to have to, sometimes you have to teach them how to care give for you or how to support you. So sometimes you have to take the reins in hand to either organize social activities that bring them onto your turf or any kind of support that can help you. So if it's like, I'm headed to the store. Oh, really? I already have your list together. Could you grab this for me and stop by? We can sit down and have a cup of coffee, but could you also just pick up my prescriptions at the same time? If you have some time, so you find yourself socializing like a little bit more, because that part is tough when you start to notice you being excluded.
oh yeah,
You be like, I should call in a fire alarm to the daggone bar. Clear everybody out.
yeah,
Everybody go home. I gotta be home. They gotta be home.
yeah. You feel that distance, and then
Yeah.
I don't like. I don't know if G is about. I'm incredibly transparent, not overshare, but um, one of the biggest things that I want in romantic life, meaning you don't want to turn you don't want to turn your partner, your person into a caregiver.
I know.
you know,
You
and
don't want to.
and for long, I thought I was damaged goods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Up here, I'm that guy. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you explain to whom you that yes, I do want to go on this vacation, but it needs to be somewhere warm and not somewhere cold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cold. These joints, it's gonna be a thing. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, who is that? Cabezon 697.
Oh,
Hey,
that's a friend from high school. Hey, Marcella.
AK, you are now rocking with the best, the Wellness Corner podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, so many people. Oh, I'm looking at that. Oh, I see my brother that joined for a little bit. Oh, that's awesome. I'm sorry.
No, you good. No, you good. You good.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, I feel you. And you know what? I know you had said that, in the way that you feel about being a man and the way that you expect to be able to perform that role, what that needs to show up in your relationships, whether it be romantic, friendships, familial, um, as a man, and what it means when you can't work. And, these are the kind of impacts that we're talking about that take root in people's lives that are dealing with autoimmune disorders. I know after I had my daughter, I was out of commission for a long time. And it was hard, right? Because I feel like I'm a natural nurturer, a natural caregiver. It was such a blow to my confidence to have to be in the hospital and ICU and, have her dad bring her to me. It was like, oh, I felt like I was letting them down. I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't nurse her. I can't lift her. I can't hold her. I've just had surgery. I could just, all you could do is really just sit her on top of me on a little pillow because I can't really do much of anything else. And it was like, it really kind of plays on your head. So I always feel like whenever I had clients, because I also used to be a dialysis social worker, whenever I had clients that, I do your assessment, see what kind of resources you have, see what kind of issues are taking root, whether it be depression or some grief, especially if, there's any loss amongst your circle of those similarly diagnosed.
Right.
When I'm addressing resources, I'm always trying to figure out ways to um, maximize what's available and making sure that they know that they need to include support group, podcast friends, podcasts that you like to listen to that are talking about what you're going through, finding you a 5K walk to participate in so that you can raise awareness and have some family or friends participate with you. I'm always trying to make sure that their resources or their care plan includes some level of social support that they may not always think about because it's so necessary. And then that financial piece becomes really big too. The working piece. So sometimes it was just a matter of, voc rehab, because a lot of times people may be on disability and things like that. So it's like, how can we figure out a way, if you can't do the job that you used to do, especially if it was physically stressful, is there some way we can maybe get you to learn a skill that'll allow you to work less but pull more money?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's something that is easier on your body. So those were some of the ways that I used to have to try to think to like cleverly, a clever approach to problem solving, because that was often, especially with my male patients, like, I can't work. I need to work, whether I have kids or I don't have kids, or I need to work. It's so important to their identity and who they are that it's just like, no, I don't, like you said, I don't want to be a burden. It's tough enough being sick. I don't want to feel like people have to care for me.
Right.
So I always want to make sure that we speak to that, that they get the opportunity to figure out ways to earn some additional income or find a way to address a need so that they don't have to ask anyone else for that particular type of support or assistance. I think it just makes them feel, it makes them feel good about themselves, you know? It
Sure.
makes them feel good about themselves.
So,
Mhm.
what are the top 5 that you're
Say that one more time. My Alexa was competing with you. Did you hear? I'm sorry. She's so rude.
no, what are, speaking of resources, like what are the top 5 common resources that you find that you have for your clients and stuff like that?
Um, I would say, well, it depends on, regardless of what setting I was working in, I always found that the biggest issues were around help with prescription costs,
Okay. Okay.
because them things is expensive,
Yeah.
especially those biologics.
Yeah.
They can be really, really expensive. And when drugs are too expensive, when your prescriptions are too expensive, people tend not to take their medications. And that creates a whole another onslaught of issues. You know what I mean? They try to stretch it. They skip doses. They, you know, all these kind of really, really, I think are genius ways to like make ends meet. And it's like, well, shoot, I might not be able to take a pill today. I might just have to take half one tomorrow until this kicks in. And, you know, it can be really complicated and not, you know, Affordable Care Act was a blessing in so many regards, but not every state like fully leans into that kind of Medicaid expansion and, you know, open up exchanges and things like that. But I would definitely say help with prescription costs was number one. Um, Depending on, I guess, the demands of your treatment, a lot of times I saw transportation was necessary.
Mm.
Transportation to appointments, transportation to treatment. When I was a dialysis social worker, I worked in a very small town, Forest City, Arkansas. And so it was like 45 miles outside of Memphis.
Yeah.
So it's no buses, it's no trains.
Wow.
You know, someone's like, I couldn't make it to treatment. How do I get them to treatment as their social worker? You know, this isn't a compliance issue. This is, there is no bus, there is no train.
Especially if their kidney disease is such that dialysis is necessary. Like you, if
Mhm.
your disease is so advanced that you can't do it at the crib, then
Yeah. Yeah. Or some people just like, some people don't have the setup to be able to do peritoneal dialysis at home and store all the, you know, the solution and turn off the air and make sure things are sterile. It's complicated. Some people get a little nervous, you know. That would definitely be an option or a solution that I would try to suggest to people and educate them about. So that would probably be my third resource, which is help with coordinating care.
mm,
Healthcare is very confusing to people. End of story. Commercial insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, going to the hospital, going to primary care, seeing specialists, it's confusing. And if you have an autoimmune disorder like we do, you have a primary care provider, and then you got your specialists. So I know I see GI, endocrinologist. They send me to dermatologist for your dermatological survey. They send me to the ophthalmologist, check on my eyes, send me to check on my bones, send me to check on, you see all these specialists,
can I
all these people.
can I share something with you?
Mm-hmm.
Next week
Mm-hmm.
is nothing but appointments and hospital follow-ups. Monday in the morning, I got allergy. In
Mm-hmm.
the evening, I gotta go see the person about my fistula.
You're fishing. Mm-hmm.
So that's Monday. Dialysis Tuesday. Wednesday
Woo.
primary care physician. Thursday dialysis. Friday cardiology. Tomorrow dentistry. On it,
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Coordinating care is a big part
And
because it's complicated.
you talking about co-pays, parking, gas is $85 a gallon. I mean, come on now.
It is. It's so much. So coordinating their care is big, especially if they, like in your instance and others, where they've had a recent hospital stay and now they've discharged and everyone wants to make sure that we're back to baseline. So it becomes this kind of complicated thing. And, depending on, uh, I've worked in communities where there were issues with making sure that you understood the language that doctors were using. Because sometimes they have this jargon and this way of speaking that can be confusing. And sometimes I feel like patients and providers tend to talk past each other a lot of times, especially in Black communities where our vernacular, we understand it, but sometimes the doctor may not understand it. I saw a patient in the ED a couple of months ago. He presented for one particular issue, and the patient was Latino, and the physician assistant was a white woman, and she's asking him for his medical history because he has a few chronic conditions, some autoimmune. And she was like, "Do you have diabetes?" And he was like, "No, I ain't got no diabetes." And she was like, "Are you sure you don't got diabetes?" And he's like, "No, I ain't got no diabetes." So she gets his wife on the phone because she's trying to confirm his medication list. And the nurse said, the wife says, "He takes metformin." And she was like, "I told you you had diabetes." He was like, "I don't have diabetes." And you know what he said, Chris? He said, "I don't have diabetes. I don't take insulin."
Oh,
So in his mind, diabetics take insulin. I just take a little pill.
little pill.
So to him, he got a touch of the sugar. So a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? And it's not that if he wasn't being cheeky, he wasn't trying to be rude or complicated. To him, as an 80-year-old man, he was like, "I ain't got no diabetes. I just take a little pill. I ain't sticking myself with no needles." So I feel like a lot of times coordinating care, educating people about what they're taking and what their options are and who they see for each need is a big one. I also think making sure people can financially support themselves is often a resource. So whether it is disability, voc rehab, which I think is a piece that is just underutilized. People don't understand, like, if disability has caused you, your condition has caused you to file for disability, like understanding how to get back to work and like get new skills, like that's something that's available to you through vocational rehabilitation programs. So that was often a big piece. And then a support group in the story. You got to find your support, whether it is a therapist for one-on-one, whether it is a support group specifically for your condition, so you guys can just kind of talk and problem solve and talk about best practices. Period.
It's because of you and the notes that you sent me as we were corresponding that I got in my schedule for tomorrow. I got to call my insurance to see if there are like behavioral health benefits that are covered under my insurance.
Yes. Yes. Good.
I'm not one that's afraid of therapy. I've been to therapy a couple, and well, as the presentation of lupus for me personally changes, I need to be able to cope with it, right? Because I often find myself grieving my former life.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you are diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, I don't care how minor or major it is, your life is no longer the same
At all.
So who you were aspiring to be as a so-called health worker, that's out. And the grief and the sense of loss that comes with that when you sent me those notes, I was like, wait, so I need to call my insurance about this? Because I'm,
Yeah.
I've always thought, G gives me a like theme about affordable, mental health sites and different stuff like that. But I never thought that, because, especially going through the marketplace for my insurance, right? Like, I'm very blessed in that when I went to the dialysis center that I had, the social worker was aggressive. I mean, this sister was aggressive about getting reimbursed now. We need it. And she applied, she helped me fill out the application to apply for the American Kidney Fund to get my insurance premium paid for. And got it in probably like 2 weeks before the deadline. And then she comes to me 3 weeks later and says they had already run out of funds. She was like, but don't worry. Top of the year, we in this thing. And she persisted. I mean, just like on the and she got it for me.
Yeah.
Them paying the premium. Okay, well, when it comes to it's medical optical. I'm not thinking behavioral.
Exactly.
I had no idea. And then you send me the email. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that, like, mental health services, behavioral health services is usually a part of your health insurance. I think people solely think of health insurance as like medical, dental, vision.
Facts.
And that you have to do something exceptional in order to be able to go to therapy. And it's like, no, you just call your insurance provider, make sure that just find out how many sessions are covered and go to someone in network. And like I said, if that's not an option for you, if by chance that's not something that's covered under your insurance provider, then you can still find community-based resources that are offered out sliding scale, meaning that they'll base their fee on your income and make sure that it's affordable. So sometimes it can still be next to nothing if right now you're not working or you're on disability.
Right. And and then that disability process, man, listen.
It's not hard.
Is that like going to my attorney, now this was back in October. And they were like, well, Mr. Hunter, you should have applied, 8 years ago. But anyway, like, oh yeah, dragged it, backlog, blah, 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 blah. And so, there are literally people who are in need and die. And, I know one of the things that my social at the dialysis center that I go to said is that main things is food insecurity and finances. So she immediately came at me and was like, and I was like, no, why? You're gonna need SNAP. Like, go ahead.
It's gone to do it. It's gone to get it.
Go do that.
It's gone.
So okay. Well, let's go ahead and get to Warriors takeaways and Jack's final thoughts. See, this is where I need, because I need the like. So I want to end this podcast. I'm having such a good time. This thing was only supposed to be an hour, and here we are, an hour 15 minutes. And I apologize for that. But I want to know your final thoughts for the evening. Leave the Well Warriors some final thoughts.
Oh man, my final thoughts are just persevere, I guess. Just persevere. Like, staying well is tough. And I say that for everyone. Like, things look a lot different when you find your goal or your wellness that you envision for yourself on the other side of a disease or a diagnosis or pain or tough medical treatment. So, but having to persevere and making sure that you have good support to do so is always so important. Be kind to yourself. Be patient to yourself. Listen to your body. Don't try to act like it's not talking to you, because it does. And it's important to listen. My dad always says, the Lord will forgive you, your body may not. So be kind to yourself. Work with your body. Don't work against it.
Man.
And take some time to like do research. Like, always remember that when you're engaged in the healthcare system, for lack of a better analogy, I always say that, well, they work for me. They work for me. Like, I'm paying them for a service, right? So make sure that you're finding good fit with your providers, that it feels like, it feels good. You feel like you're being heard. You don't feel like you're being rushed. You feel like there's dialogue about what your treatment looks like. Find your people and stick with them, whether it's this podcast, whether it's folks at your church or in your community. And just, hang in there and persevere. It's tough, but we built different in so many ways. So just keep on hanging in there.
So my warrior takeaways are simple tonight, y'all. Through learning from Sister Jazz, I will reiterate this over and over again. There is no bigger advocate for you than you. Wellness warriors, don't nobody know your body better than you. Don't nobody know your needs better than you. You are it. Other than God, nobody knows you better.
Yep.
Okay? So use the resources that you have to you to do everything that you can to take care of yourself. Take care, like it's like Marshawn, take care of your mentals. Take care of your dome, because it's hard, y'all. It's hard, wellness work. And remember, and y'all are, hey, y'all know what I'm gonna say, y'all. You got to be too stubborn to just lay down and die.
Amen.
Too stubborn. So, Jazz, I thank you so very much.
Thank you.
This is fantastic. I learned so much. Like, thank you so very much. And
Absolutely.
I'll be listening to the Brown Liquor Report.
Yay!
Can you please share your if you feel comfortable?
My socials. So you can listen to the Brown Liquor Report. Me and my co-host, The Count, and DJ Blackshaw. You can listen to us wherever you find your podcast. So that's SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're out there. It's adult conversation, so hold on to your seats, but it's really, really fantastic. I think we're always talking about really interesting hot topics and finding some interesting perspectives to share with you guys. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, The Brown Liquor Report. And yeah, go from there. Hit me up in the inbox if you want to have more conversations about wellness warriors. Love to come back. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. You have a good evening. Wellness Warriors, listen up. Be you times 10 and the hell up. Peace.
Yeah. Bye.
All right.